webcams. Do you want your webcam on so you can talk to people?
Go on then.
There you go, webcam's on as well.
Okay. Good morning and welcome back to Plan and Craft. Hopefully you can see me okay. It's a bit of a weird one. I think it's more positioned for Ian than it is for me. I'm a little short. Okay, so this morning I'm going to take you through using digital stamps. Pop a comment in the comment box if you've never used a digital stamp or if you want to know a bit more about why you'd want to use one. Okay, we're going to wait for a few more people to join because we're a little bit early this morning. So feel free to ask questions while you've got the opportunity.
We have Carol and Barbara in this morning.
Hi Carol, hi Barbara.
Not great.
I was going to say, I'm sure she's still going. Freaking me out with snakes this morning. Any questions?
No, Carol says I haven't.
Okay. Okay, well, a digital stamp is usually a JPEG format image. So I have one open on my screen here. This is one that I did ages ago, so I found it in the archives. Today I'm not going to be doing about actually designing them, it's just going to be how you can use them. Yep, okay, we'll carry on from here. Okay, so when you first open your digital stamp, you are going to want to do a few things. So number one, I've just literally opened this in Affinity Designer. So I'm going to go to New, and rather than use this link up, I'm just going to go to Print. So let's say you were going to work on an A5 card. And this is just for Designer. You can actually copy it. It's being good. Just unlock it because I had it locked. There we go. And we can paste it in and we can resize it that way. Okay. So we can have it nice and big. And then you can use to print it out as normal. I'm not going to do lots of printing today, but I will talk you through it. Okay, so when we go to print and we're looking at printing onto an A5 card. Sorry, he just thrown me there. You're going to go to A4 borderless. Going to take you to landscape. You all right? Okay. So, great timing. With your layout, you can add a hairline border if you want, but that goes to the border of your page. It doesn't go to the border of the sheet that you're printing, if that makes sense. Colour matching, it doesn't really matter when it's just black and white, but I will go a bit more into colour matching in a bit.
Morning, Zena.
Hey. So literally all I've done so far, Zena, is I've brought my digital stamp into a file in Designer. And we can actually set it to A5 as well if you want to. So if you decide, and it's because it's, no, I go back that way, just so I can set it to portrait. There you go, you see it's no longer red. If it does go red like that, what it's saying is it's going outside the printable area. Okay. So I'm going to down to paper handling. Late pages doesn't really count, and the feed A5 horizontally will depend on your printer. So in some cases, like with the laser, you're better off feeding it horizontally because the waste toner is after it works out what you are. Cover pages again you won't really use unless you're doing like multiple documents, so you can ignore that one. Your basic settings, so we tend to leave our printer on auto so it automatically goes between colour and black and white, but what you may find is although some printers offer it as part of the driver, it actually doesn't work. So if you have on an older printer, you may be better off actually selecting black and white. And for printing digital stamps, I recommend you leave toner saving off unless you're doing it as an effect. And same for an inkjet. If you're looking at printing it, you want to keep it to a standard setting. So not a photo setting, but also you don't want to go down to a draft. And in terms of DPI, if your printer offers it, 600 is higher than you actually need. You probably only need about 300. Okay. So at this point we could go to print and it would print out onto an A5 piece of paper or card. Now, if you're not using Designer and you're actually going to use a photo editor instead, we can actually start to play more with our actual image. Okay. So first of all, I'm going to go into Document and Resize Document. So what this one does is this will actually change your entire document, including the content of it. Okay. So you can see our DPI is 299. Well, it should be 300. It's a bit random that. And if we then change our units to, let's go centimetres. Okay, and we can see that it is just under 6 centimetres wide and just over 10 centimetres tall. Let's say we want to do that a bit bigger. So if you're looking at A5, you're looking at 21 centimetres in height for an A5 sheet of paper. So if we say 15, okay, and it will automatically do it in proportion. It will then say about resampling, and for the most part, bilinear is what you need. Okay. If you're going a lot bigger, then you'll have to go to something like Nearest Neighbour. But you will lose a lot of definition of your lines. The whole point of the way that you Digistamp's created is that it does have that sharp edge line. So when you start to blow up, it's going to blur a little bit on the edges. Okay, so if I go to resize now, just going to zoom in. If I zoom right in, you can see we've got all this fuzziness going on. Now obviously when that's printed out at normal size you won't really notice it, but I wanted to show how much of a difference it's going to make if you're going to go massively different. Okay, so if you only get an A6 image and you decide you want that at A3, you're going to really start to see this blurring of the edge. And again, if we wanted to, at this point we can just go to print and it will print out the size that we've set it to. And we can still go to A5 and all the rest of it. But if you want to start playing with it a bit more, we can actually start to do some funky effects with it. So first of all, I'm going to set this to screen. I'm going to start a new layer, which is this one here. I'm going to drop it underneath. And let's get the brush tool. I'm going to go to colour. I'm going to pick some colours to play with.
Turn your webcam off because you can't see the colours.
Okay. Okay, so let's go for something a bit more vivid than that. Yeah. I'm going to increase the size of my brush using closed square bracket. And you can see straight away it's giving us a hint of where that colour's going to go. It's cool because we can start to do some really funky effects. The other thing to bear in mind with digital stamps is what you're printing onto. So what you can actually start to do is to print onto backgrounds that you've made. So long as your sheets are flat, they should feed through your printer fine. I'm going to go in with some blue.
You may find that some printers have the back feeder as well for special media. So if it won't feed through the normal rollers at the front, try the feeder at the back if there is one.
Yeah. And one of the other questions we get asked a lot is recommendations for printers as well. So, off you pop here.
Recommendation for printers.
Yeah.
If you're going for a laser printer, we do love our laser printer that we have, which is a Canon iSense. Is it iSenses? It says on the top. I can remember.
Yeah, iSenses.
Yeah, and it's an LPW.
LBP.
LBP, it was close. 71?
Yeah, 7110.
7110 CW. It's a colour one. Cal was
Laser.
asking, yeah, hang on, just saying. Cal was asking, what brush settings have you got on it, i.e. watercolour, oil, etc.?
Okay, it's just a standard soft brush. So if we go back to the brush and brushes up here. So it's just a basic brush. We've got 0 hardness. Your opacity's at 100, your flow's at 100. Okay. I haven't turned the stabilizer on at all.
Sarah Lou joined in as well.
Hi Sarah Lou. And at the moment I have a blend mode and multiply, which is a bit weird, but just undo that because I've flicked off it. I'm going to go in with a bit more colour, I think, in places.
Inkjets, depending
Brother.
on, yeah, we do like the Brother ones. They do a very good quality A3 printer, and we were looking yesterday at an Epson one, weren't we?
Yeah.
Which
For
does the
12 by
A3
12.
plus, so that'll be able to print your 12 by 12 sheets then on the A3 plus one. If anyone is interested in that one, I'll pop you the details in because I've lost the link, so I will pull that back up and I'll pop the details on the group for the big printers. But you don't have to spend a lot of money on the printers. You tend to get what you pay for, don't you? Although the Canon ones are, the Canon Pixar ones are quite good, which are quite reasonable. Just be careful on your ink prices. You may find with some of the printers that the ink actually costs more than your printer did.
Yeah, especially if it's a cheaper printer. So you quite often see like the Canon printers in Lidl, Aldi, Argos for about £20, but when it comes to redoing the ink, you're looking at more like 50. So it's.
I think it's stupid to buy a new printer, but you only get like samplings in a lot of the printers. Can we turn the volume up a little bit for you?
I can have a look.
Who for, Carol? For me talking or for Natalie talking? So obviously the microphone's close to Natalie, so.
I would say it's probably for you. You're mumbling.
I'm mumbling. That's terrible for mumbling.
No, because it'll fall. Let's try out to shadows if we can get it may not do it on this one.
I should try and speak more clearly. Sit up a bit so I'm not slumping into a desk.
It's okay. I was trying to be clever then with the effects, but just because the way I've done the masking, it won't work.
Okay.
So, leave that bit. I will show you something that we can do with that in a bit.
Yeah, extra large ink for your HBM is £60. Yeah.
Yeah. Always go for the extra large.
Yeah, if you're going to get the inks, go for the extra large ones. They last that little bit longer. And the one thing we found with the Canon one, it only prints about 80 to 100 sheets
before the cartridge dies.
And we were printing, our laser printer prints about
1,000.
On a single toner, and it's sort of like, and the toner cartridges for our laser aren't overly expensive. I think we pay £50 for a full set, don't we? Is it about that?
Yeah.
So for toner cartridges, it's quite reasonable. You will get better longevity out of your laser printer than you will your inkjet. For the toner, you actually get a lot more out of them.
Okay, so I've just saved the colour lines one, and I'm going to go back to another copy of the original, just so I can show you some other ways that we can play with it. So what I want to do next, try and see if I can see it on here. The lights on the screen a bit. Okay, let's see if that's gonna. There we go. That's what I need. So what I'm using at the moment is the brush select tool. And move that out my way, don't need it. And what that does is it's a bit like the magic wand in Photoshop, but you actually brush with it, so to speak. I'm going to ignore the fact that the mouse is playing up. Again. So if you find that it goes over the line, you can actually just push back in by pressing and holding Alt while you brush. And shrink your brush down. Okay, so if I show you what I've got so far, if I delete that, we can start to actually take out the background so that we can start to play with other colours underneath it. And we can also play with effects then. So to deselect, it's Command and D or Control and D, and then we can start again with a new selection. And everything I'm doing now, you can do in Photoshop, you could do it in GIMP, you could do it in pretty much any other photo editor.
Which one are you using?
I'm in Affinity Photo at the moment. But again, there's nothing here that you couldn't do with the designer version in pixel mode. At least yet.
Again, you've still got your 90-day free trial on
Photo
and all of the Affinity programs, and I think they're still half price as well at the moment.
brush smaller just so I can get into the little details. Now, one thing you will notice when I'm doing this is we're starting to get quite a jagged edge to our image, and that's why I've done this before I do my resize, so it will actually blur it back out a little bit. Okay, go small still. It's still gonna be. Come on. Okay. Nearly there. Just going to go down here.
You've got your 2 circles.
Yeah, got me 2 circles. Then I'm going to go to my document, then resize. If I can do my 300 again, change it to centimetres. Going to go to 15 again. Okay. So let's just soften that edge a little. Next, I'm going to go with another new layer and pop it underneath, and I'm going to go in with my brush. So B for brush, I'm going to go to my colour palette, choose some nice bright colours to play with, and we can actually start to pop in some colour. So at this point you don't have to be really precise, because we can actually go back in and edit it all afterwards. So you'll notice that I've literally just gone in here and all I've done is a single dot, and that's going to do my shading. Okay, and down here I can just do a single dot again, and then you want to bring that colour in somewhere else. So if you wanted to, you could put in a sky in here. Oh, excuse me. Sneeze.
That's right, we've only stopped. Which bit, Carol? Just what you're doing, so which bit you missed? Or...
So basically what I was doing with the selection tool was actually taking away the white areas, so that we're then left with a stamp layer that is as if we stamped it on acetate, so we can overlay it over other colours.
Yeah, just before brushing.
Yeah, so actually deleting out the background. So I'm going to switch to, try and go to a nice soft pink somewhere up here. Make it a little bit warmer. Okay, so I'm going to pop in some pink. And I'm keeping my colouring for this one quite abstract, because it's quite an abstract stamp in the first place. Okay, now when I go to green, I want to try and keep it to a nice cool green so that we don't get too much mud going on. So if you look where the pink overlaps the green, it goes quite kind of almost grey. So I'm just going to drop it in so it's not too close. And we can always use a bit of blue just to patch that up. I'm just going to drop some more in there. Now to darken that down a little bit, I think I'm just going to go to a little bit of lilac. Have you got another question?
No.
I was getting the feeling you had a question. Okay, so where we're going into the grey now is because we've got this multiply selected up here. If we go to normal, you'll see you'll keep a lot more of your true colour. So it all depends on how you want your colours to blend. So if we go to darken, for instance, you can see it darkens it down but still keeps its colour. If we go to colour burn, that's a bit weird, that one. So you'll find it kind of goes underneath it almost, which is just bizarre. If we go to linear burn on the other hand, you'll get much darker area coming. And I'm going to go back to normal for a minute. And I'm going to go to my eyedropper up here. Keep looking for it where Photoshop would have it, that's bad.
This is the last time we used Photoshop.
So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to do a nice broad stroke of the green. Then we can just tidy up. So I'm pressing E for eraser, and I've got a really small eraser just there, so we can go and use our open square bracket to enlarge our brush. It's got a nice sharp edge on it. So most of the time when I'm working with Photoshop or Affinity Photo, I will actually just stick to basic brushes. It's very rare that I will use like a texture brush or something like that. And I'm just going to pop in a bit of green into there. I'm just going to come back down here and just toughen this line up a little. Go back and erase this back out. And you want to get careful around your petals. Just down. So that's one way that we could colour it. Just going to unlock that layer there. I'm going to select all, and if we go to edit and copy merged, what that basically does is it copies it as if it was a flattened document, and we can paste it back in, and it has, if I take these other two out, it has all that layer information as one flattened, and you can drop it down to the back, and that gives you one way of doing it. Now I'm going to turn these top two layers back on and turn off that one that we've just done, and we can go in and do something totally different. So I'm going to just take out that there and put in a new one. And let's go for something a bit more realistic this time.
Nothing wrong with it.
So I'm going to go in with a little bit of shading around here. I'm going helps at this point, and you know you're going to print it onto white, and actually just drop in another layer underneath and have that so that's white. There you go, just helps you out a little bit. Go back to your pixel layer though, make sure you're on the right there. And I'm going to go in with a really fine brush. And it's going to be done for me. Thank you. Okay. And I'm just going to turn on my brush sensitivity so we can start to actually blend some of these bits out. Now, if you're finding that you're getting lots of jaggies and you're not happy with that resolution, go back into your document settings and we can actually put up our DPI. Okay. Thank you. It's going to be annoying. Let's take that out of there for a minute and start afresh. Computer going off and on. And I'm just going to turn my stabilizer on and see if that helps it out a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to, that's better.
Tracy says as well, I procreate a lot. I'm not good with staying in the lines.
So I'll pop the general shader back in a minute, but just for now, I'm going to go down each petal. The whole joy of doing it this way is that we don't need to stay in the lines. We can sort the lines out after. So once you're happy with that, we can go back up. And I'm just going to give a nice little. Okay. Why is it done that? Random. Okay. I'm then going to go and go for a yellowy green. I'm going to bring that in round here. It's got some really random things going on here. Really, really random. Okay. I'm just going to drop in a bit more of that shading just around the base. Then I want to go in with a little bit of yellow or green towards this top section. So, yeah, it seems to be. So I might just sort this bit out next. So I'm just going to go to that one, go back to brush, just touch up these where it went a bit weird. So I just want to go right in there, like so. And I'm going to bring it along this bottom edge here and right under here. And then, as we were saying about going up lines, we can just use my eraser to just tidy it up. Okay, and I go back to my green and just swoosh it in. Need a bit of green and a bit of the blue down there. And I do like to use a lot of two-colour colouring. So I'm going to go in with another new layer, and I'm going to pop that beneath my flower. And that's so that we can actually then stop worrying about going out the lines again. So with my brush selected, I'm going to make my brush a lot bigger. Bigger, thank you. And we're going to go right in with some nice bold colour. Okay, and underneath here as well. We're then going to swap colour, and we're going to go right through there as well. And then we can clean it up outside the lines.
The stamp is actually one of Natalie's drawings. She didn't draw it today, it's one she did a few years ago, isn't it?
Yeah, years and years and years ago.
So it is an original of Natalie's, but it's not one she's done today.
Okay.
She said it's very cool, she likes it.
So again, we can do select all, Control Shift C or Command Shift C, Command V or Control V, and we have another flattened copy then that we can just hide away. If I take that one out and that one out, and I'm going to go to my background. We can actually play with effects as well. So if we want to put a shadow on, because we've knocked out our background, this will work now. You're going to take your radius up, offset it, so you can actually see it. So offset does how much you want your shadow offset away from your image. Radius is how wide you want it to go. So at its maximum it's really blurry, but if you want it to be quite a hard line, you go down this way. But I usually have it quite soft when I'm doing drop shadows. And intensity is how dark you want that shadow to be, as well as also how sharp you want that radius to be. Hopefully that makes sense. And opacity as well, if you want it to be dark dark or just soft soft. We can change colour of it, which can be a quick way of providing a lovely pop of colour. So if I go to a nice red one for a change, I've done lots of pinks and purples and blues and greens today, so let's go red. You can change the angle that the light will be hitting, which is again quite fun, and it changes your image quite a lot, so it's worth having to play with that. If you're having more than one design in your card though, I would recommend that you do them all to match, otherwise it just looks a bit random. then we can do things like embossing and so forth. Who would like to see embossing? So if we go to bevel and emboss, you can actually do almost like heat embossing, because it's supposed to be like a 3D effect. It's a good point of seeing where you might have missed a few bits of background. You can soften it as well, so it's not quite so in your face. Okay, so that's all under the effects, and then bevel and emboss. And you can do that also in Designer. So everything that I'm showing you so far, you can do in both.
And Barbara says.
Okay.
But no. As a stamp, if people want it.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do that. Do you want to say that? I'll let you.
So what we're saying is, so seeing how you can set it up as an emboss, isn't it? So
Yeah.
it has an emboss effect on
so when you're doing your angle here, you can actually change where your light is, and it'll also do your shadow at the same time, which is kind of freaky. So at the same time as you're affecting your embossing, it's also doing your outer shadow as well. So you notice the red kind of gets affected by it as well. So let's go that way, and we can even then go back to our red colour for our shadow. Just intensifies it a little bit, makes it look a bit more 3D. And same with your screen colour, although it's set to white, you can actually put it to more like a pink, and it'll actually look like it's actually picking up on that red colour. So it's a good way of putting like a neon effect on. And if we go to oh, I missed that bit. Okay. Doing negotiations. Okay. I quite like that.
It's funky, isn't it?
Yeah. I might do something like that later. That's going to throw my plans out for later out the window. Oh well.
Well, you can do it online. You can do it in our feed.
But yeah, I've kind of done a bit of the colouring in this one though, so rather than getting into full on digital painting, I might leave that for another day, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Get you started with basics, and then we'll go to digital painting another day.
Do you want me to ask the question?
Go on then.
Quick question for you all who are watching. I was going to Tracy's saying that she likes the stamp. Would you like us to make it available for you on Facebook for £2.50? And basically our only policy is please don't distribute it. Obviously we want people to pay for it. Other than that, they can use it. We don't have any restriction on what they can use it for, do we?
Yeah, we have a very open angel policy. Just don't abuse it.
Yeah, don't abuse it. Don't hand it out free of charge. Obviously, as it's a paid product. So if you do want that put up, give me a thumbs up or a yes, please. And we'll put it up on the Facebook group if it's something that you like.
Okay. So, in terms of doing this one, that's probably it. What time are we on? We're on about 11:45, aren't we?
You're alright. Tracy says, can't stifle creativity when it flows, it flows.
Yeah. So what I have here is actually a ruff for another design, and I quite like it scratchy. But I will show you what I would end up doing. So basically, when I start doing a design for a digistamp, they always, well, almost always start out as a sketch, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Almost always. There's a few occasions where there's exceptions to the rule, but I'm just going to switch persona back to me vector one. But once we've done our sketches, what we have to then do, we actually have to digitize the design. So as you will have seen with the digital stamp that I was just doing, that was quite an early one. So now when I do digital stamps, I actually do them so that we actually have a few different options in format, including a vector one, just because of the scalability of the design. So you don't end up getting all the jaggeds and around the edges.
Pixelation.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to go in with my vector brush. And I do tend to use a brush for doing this rather than the pen tool, otherwise it's like, you end up trying to kind of copy every lump and bump. And what I don't want to do is have something that is kind of almost clinical if you do it with a path tool. And I'm just going to put my pressure control on as well so that we get a bit of variation in line. So I just literally brush over the same stroke I've already drawn. But you'll find that you don't get like the scratches, which you can do if you want to. You can actually draw them in, but I prefer to try and keep it still a little bit clean, I suppose, but so it doesn't look like your pen's running out. So the bigger your brush size, the more variation you'll get in your stroke. So I'm just going to go in just there, because this one's quite bold down here.
Yes. Tracy asks, can you use this as a digital stamp to print instead of turning it into a real stamp because of all the open light?
Yeah.
That's the idea of doing all the working design and stuff first, isn't it? Because then you print it out and then it's...
Yeah, so basically your line work as such, you can do it either way, to be honest. Rubber stamps are actually quite capable of having quite a lot of intricate detail in them. The difference being I wouldn't use it for like the ones for your cutter. So if you have like the Sizzix or the Brother stamp making kit, I wouldn't do something like this with that. You need to go bolder.
Carol, how would you turn it into a real stamp? And there you go. So you can... There are several kits available, aren't there?
There are indeed.
Yeah.
We did have some that we actually did turn into a stamp, didn't we?
We did. Brother do one now, don't they? They do a stamp making kit.
Yeah, we have the Brother stamp making kit here.
Yes.
And we have the Zizix one. Not Zizix. Do I mean Zizix? Or do I mean Cricket? Which one is it? It's done by you somewhere, I think.
Not sure.
But in terms of put it into a real rubber stamp, then you have to find somebody who's willing to do that for you. Just don't want those lines across like that. It just looks a bit wrong, so I'm just gonna.
But it can be quite expensive.
Yes. Can be very expensive.
So obviously, if you have somebody like Chocolate Baroque, they have to get the plates made, and then obviously the rubber as well. So if you're doing it as a one-off design, it would be quite an expensive
Investment.
But there are ways of making your own.
So we use the oh, that's really annoying. I can see the branding, but I can't think what the name is. The image pack, that's the one. I get that eventually. We have an image pack kit that we use to create some of our own clear rubber stamps. Not rubber, but silicone. And that's quite a fun process actually. I quite enjoyed doing that. It's just getting a bit harder to get hold of the refills for it.
Yeah. The gel pack's isn't it?
Yeah, so I do tend to just keep it for the ones that I absolutely have to have as a stamp. So, for instance, we did one with the company logo, yeah. We did your dancers, didn't we? That we used a lot for your advertising.
I suppose you cut it off lino with those tools that we used to do at school many moons ago.
You could if you're that kind of patient. I don't have the most patience in the world. I'd be the first to hold my hands up to that one. However, I will knock Ian's head off his shoulders for just having a snigger on his breath there. He's not nice to me, is he? I'm just going to go back around here. And what's that?
Just saying, not me, I've cut my hands too much.
Yeah, they are a bit nasty, those tools. We used to have a set, didn't we? But I don't know what happened to them. Something else to try and find one day.
I don't know our stamp makers that.
I'm just going to come in here, and we've got like a flicky bit that's going to go through there. We're going to go down here. And because we've already got one bit which is kind of sketchy, you kind of want to keep doing that. those all sorted. I'm going to pull my layers palette out of here just because I need to see a bit more of it. I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom. I'm just going to hide my background layer just so I can see how my stamp's looking and which bits I want to change. So that O to me just doesn't look right. I'm just going to take some of these bits out and just make it that little bit cleaner. Take it that way. Just going to shift those across a little bit and rotate them better. Keeps that bit a bit more open. I'm getting to the point where I quite like that, especially like this L. Maybe just shift that O section over a bit. Okay. So just join that back up a bit. Just going to rotate that right down that way. Don't be dense on me. Thank you. Rotate that way a bit more because I want that to flick out there. And then join up these two lines. So. Yeah. There we go. So I'm happy with that now. So select all. Expand stroke. So then it turns all those strokes into shapes. And come out it. There you go. And then we're ready to export it. So nowadays I just do it to SVG. But rather than going to 96 like we usually would, we're going to go to 300.
Carol says thought you said you didn't have much patience.
I don't. I really don't. If I had more patience, I'd be going in there drawing every single little dot round. Nah, can't be doing that. Okay, so there's a quick overview of what you can do with a digital stamp. Very quick.
Yep. So we're back at 2?
Yeah.
What are we doing at 2?
I might just use the digital stamp with the scanning cut because I haven't covered that yet.
Okay.
We didn't get that far to take it into canvas, so.
Okay. And how you use it?
Yeah, with your machine. Might do some heat embossing.
Okay.
So, yeah, we'll go for that.
Bit of a wing it.
No, it won't be a wing it.
Okay.
But I'll use some different stamps as well because I have some other ones that are hiding away that we can use.
Okay, and we'll see you all back at 2 o'clock. Don't forget you got Pete at 12:30 and Leslie at 1:30 for Chocolate Baroque. And if you're quick, Lou is just starting at 12. So enjoy your afternoon viewing, and we will see you all a little bit later at 2 o'clock. Bye.